Ever catch yourself thinking, I'll be happy when?
Yeah.
Like you hit that milestone, reach that goal. It's like we tie our self-worth to these external
It's
things.
a common trap, isn't it?
For sure. But in this deep dive, we're really digging into this material, Guy and Autoestima 10 pesos.txt, self-esteem script, 10 steps we're thinking, and it's got some really practical advice on how to kind of rewire that thinking.
It does. And, the first step might surprise you. It's not about forcing positivity or ignoring the negative stuff. It's actually about embracing all our emotions, even the difficult ones.
That's almost counterintuitive, right? I mean, everywhere you turn, it's think positive, good vibes only. So accepting like sadness or anger almost feels wrong.
Totally. But there's really interesting science behind this. A 2017 Stanford study found that people who practiced accepting those tougher emotions like sadness, anger, frustration, all of it, they actually ended up with higher self-esteem and less anxiety over time.
So it's about not judging those feelings, not writing them off as like bad.
Exactly. It's more about recognizing them as natural human responses, not letting them take over, but acknowledging they're there, figuring out where they're coming from, and then making choices about how we move forward.
It's like giving ourselves permission to be human with all the ups and downs. I like that. Okay, so we're embracing all our emotions, the good, the not so good. What's the next move toward building that self-esteem?
Well, this builds on that self-acceptance idea. It's about tuning into that inner voice, our self-talk. And this is where things can get, well,
Interesting, because let's be real, most of us have that inner critic, right? That little voice whispering doubts and insecurities.
exactly. And it's surprising how much power that voice has over our self-worth. The good news is we can learn to, change the channel. There was this 2016 study in the Journal of Positive Psychology that found practicing positive self-talk, really consciously swapping those negative thoughts for empowering ones, led to some incredible benefits.
Like what? I gotta hear this.
People who really worked on their self-talk, they not only had higher self-esteem, but they also felt better overall, managed stress better, bounced back from setbacks more easily, went after their goals more. It was like they tapped into this new level of inner strength.
So instead of that broken record loop of I'm not good enough, it's about consciously choosing I am capable, I am worthy, that kind of thing.
Exactly. Reframing those negative thoughts and replacing them with more empowering beliefs about ourselves.
It really is amazing, though, how much our thoughts impact, well, everything, how we feel, how we show up in the world.
No doubt. And, this self-respect thing, like setting boundaries with our own thoughts, it connects directly to step 3, which is all about setting external boundaries. Learning to say no without that tidal wave of guilt afterward.
Yes. Saying no can be so hard, especially, well, for me, I'm total people pleaser. But I've learned that always saying yes to everyone else often means saying no to my own needs. And that's not good.
It's true. It takes a toll. There was this study, 2015 University of Ottawa, and they found that people who could assert their needs and say no without the guilt trip had way higher self-esteem and better emotional well-being. Saying no doesn't make you a bad person. It often means you're prioritizing your own well-being, which honestly is essential for self-esteem.
This is so spot on. It's like we're laying this foundation of self-respect. First, by accepting our emotions, then by challenging our negative self-talk, and now with setting healthy boundaries.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And speaking of relationships, that leads us right into step 4, which stresses how important your social circle is, the people you surround yourself with.
Because you know what they say? Misery loves company. But so does success, right? There's that quote, you are the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with.
It's so true, and there's research to back it up. A 2014 study from the University of California found a direct link between having supportive relationships and having higher self-esteem.
Makes sense, right? When you think about it. If we're constantly surrounded by negativity or criticism or even just bluntness, it's got to be hard to see our own worth.
Absolutely. Our self-perception's kind of clouded by the energy of those around us, But if you've got those people who uplift you, encourage you, really believe in you, it makes all the difference. Like they're holding up a mirror, but it's reflecting back your best self.
So we've got embracing all the emotions, then there's harnessing the power of our self-talk, setting those boundaries, and surrounding ourselves with like a positive crew.
That's a pretty good base for building self-esteem, right?
For sure. And this self-esteem script, it takes that foundation and just builds on it so well with the next 6 steps. They're all about perspective and action.
Okay, so no rest for the wicked. What's next in this self-esteem journey? I'm ready.
Well, you said levels, and it's funny you should say that because step 5 and step 6 actually kind of go together. It's about ditching comparison and then celebrating your own progress.
Comparison, right, the thief of joy. So easy to get caught up in what everyone else is doing, especially now with social media. It's true. You see these perfect little snapshots of people's lives, and it's so easy to feel like, wait, I'm not enough. But the thing is, comparison, it's a losing game from the start,
Hmm.
you know? It takes all your focus off your own path.
And that's where celebrating our wins comes in, right?
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Step 6 is all about remembering that every step, even the tiny ones, they're all worth celebrating. It's about shifting that focus from what we haven't done to what we have done. And get this, there was a study back in 2014, University of Toronto. They found that recognizing and celebrating our achievements, even if they seem small, it can really boost our self-esteem and motivation.
So it's not about waiting for those huge milestones. It's about those everyday wins, those little moments that actually add up to something much bigger.
Totally. Like giving yourself a pat on the back just for showing up, putting in the effort. That's powerful stuff.
Okay, so no more comparing. We're celebrating our wins, big or small. What's next?
Well, step 7 and 8, they sort of work together too. It's about challenging those negative thoughts because let's face it, they creep in and then prioritizing self-care.
Oh, tell me about it. I can be having, like, the best day ever, and then boom, that little voice pops up with a big old dose of self-doubt.
It happens. But it's about not letting those thoughts take over. There was this study, 2016, Journal of Cognitive Therapy. They found that actively challenging those negative thought patterns, huge positive impact on self-worth and stress management. It's about realizing those thoughts are just thoughts, not facts. You know, and then we can choose to reframe them in a way that's more positive and realistic.
So we're, like, working out our mental muscles, getting stronger at spotting those negative thought patterns, and then boom, consciously choosing a different path.
That's it. And, sometimes the best way to fight those negative thoughts is to just give ourselves a little TLC. And that's where step 8 comes in. It reminds us that self-care is not selfish at all. Essential, actually.
Right.
And I'm not just talking bubble baths and face masks here. It's about making time for the things that nourish us, mind, body, soul, the whole deal, whatever that looks like for you.
Because when we feel good, we're more likely to, like, think good thoughts about ourselves.
Right. Absolutely. There was a 2018 health psychology study. They found a strong connection between physical self-care and having a better body image. It's about treating our bodies with kindness and respect, which then boosts how we see ourselves overall.
It's like they say, you can't pour from an empty cup. Refilling those reserves, that's self-care. That's how we show up as our best selves.
Exactly. And, that inner peace, that self-acceptance, that's so key for these last 2 steps in the self-esteem script, which are gratitude and patience.
Okay, so gratitude, patience, those are words we hear a lot, but how do they actually connect to something like self-esteem?
It's interesting, right? They're more connected than you might think. Step 9 is all about gratitude. And it's not just about, like, remembering to say thank you, although that's a good thing. It's more about really cultivating this mindset of appreciating what we have instead of focusing on what we don't. And that shift, it can really impact our self-esteem.
Yeah, when we're stuck in that I don't have mindset, it's easy to feel like we're not good enough. But when we're appreciating the good, even the small stuff, it just changes our whole energy.
Totally. And there's a study, University of Texas, 2019. They found that practicing gratitude, it didn't just make people happier overall, it also seriously boosted their self-esteem. Focusing on the positive, it naturally lifts up how we feel about ourselves.
Makes sense to me. So, let's see, we've got embracing our emotions, challenging that negative self-talk, setting boundaries, finding our people, celebrating our wins, prioritizing self-care, and now we're adding gratitude to the mix. What's the final piece?
The last one, step 10, is all about patience. Because here's the thing about self-esteem. It's a journey, right? Not a destination. It's a process, always evolving. And sometimes we got to give ourselves a break.
Because we're human, right? We're going to mess up, have setbacks. It's all part of it.
Exactly. And that's where self-compassion is so important. There was a study, 2015, Journal of Clinical Psychology, and they found that when people approach personal growth, and that includes building self-esteem with patience and self-compassion, they were way more likely to actually make those changes stick. It's about recognizing that we're all works in progress, and that's okay.
I love that. Well, we have covered a lot today. 10 solid steps to boost self-esteem straight from this awesome source you shared with us. So as we wrap up, what's one big thing you hope our listeners take away from this deep dive?
I think the biggest takeaway is this. Building self-esteem, it starts within, you know? It's about changing our thoughts, our beliefs, how we act, to really nurture that self-worth from the inside out. It's about recognizing that we are worthy of love and respect right here, right now, just as we are, even while we're still growing and figuring things out.
So well said. And I think that's a perfect note to end on. To everyone listening, you are worthy, you are capable, and you have the power to create a life you love, a life that reflects the best, most authentic you. Thanks for being here with us for this deep dive into self-esteem. Until next time, be kind to yourselves and keep exploring.